I spent a solid weekend playing on the computer a few years ago, drinking a lot of Idra and coffee and generally not sleeping much. Every so often I'd feel an itch on my arms, like a loose hair falling on them. I'd brush it off and go back to staring at the computer as this itching was happening more frequently. I started wondering if I was just imagining things or delusional from the tea and insomnia, but then I noticed what appeared to be tiny spiders on my arms. Am I going crazy? Are these drug bugs or what? And I went back to the screen. Then I saw the strings of thin webs glistening in the light and tiny spiders floating past my vision. They were real indeed. I noticed a hole in the ceiling where they appeared to be falling from. I blasted a can of wash spray into the hole, and hundreds of these little SP spiders began pouring out, streaming from their webs, hundreds of them all over me. I started freaking out. Then noticed the parents sitting on my door. They were huge, almost the size of a hand. So of course I didn't want to use the front door. I run to my back door, throw off all my clothes, and jump in the shower. I then watch as the spiders began falling out of my hair. I got home late and my phone was about to die. I always plug my phone into the outlet under my bed. I collapsed on my bed and reached my hand under my bed to try and find my phone's charger. But what I found instead was some kind of squishy sack. I began poking and squeezing it, when all of a sudden I felt hundreds of little legs poking me. And crawling up my arm, I pulled my arm up from under my bed and then screamed when I saw probably 30 baby spiders crawling up my arm. I shook them off, told my parents, and jumped in the shower. Right away, turned out it was a baby spider sack, and there was an even bigger mother spider living under my bed. I awoke from my deep sleep in the middle of the night to the feeling of something huge crawling around in my bed. Still half asleep, I jumped out and started freaking out, assuming it was a spider or something. With one swift motion of bravery, I flung the covers off the bed, but nothing was there. I started to think that I was just feeling it as part of a dream, and I continued to feel it until I fully woke up. So I went back to sleep the next night. I felt the same exact thing. I felt it on my arms this time, instead of my legs again. I jumped out of Deeds, still not in the fully awake state of mind I was, again freaking out, and ran to my parents' room to get my dad. He was never afraid of spiders. He came to my room and flung off the sheets and covers. There was nothing there. I was convinced at this point that it had something to do with my dreams, or something was wrong with me, because there was no spider in my bed whatsoever. However, the next night it happened again. The feeling of something huge crawling on my arm, freaking out again. In my half-awake, confused state of mind, I once again jumped out of bed and flung off the covers. But this time I was greeted by the sight of the biggest spider I'd ever seen, bigger than a tarantula. It quickly crawled under my bed and out of sight as I screamed and went off to my parents' room again to tell my dad this happened when I was staying with my grandma for the weekend. My uncle still lived with her, and occasionally I would stay over to work with my uncle for some good pay anyway. I was exhausted after a long day's work with my uncle, so I basically fell into the rickety old guest bed upstairs. I watched some TV for about 10 minutes before just deciding to go to sleep. It was a hot night. You know how hot nights, you constantly have to flip over the pillow to the cooler side? Well, when I did that, I put my head back down on the pillow. I didn't feel the soft, cushiony pillow on my cheek. I felt a furry, indescribable object press up on my face. I jumped up in response to it and saw a giant, full-grown huntsman spider sitting on my pillow. I fell to the opposite side of the bed, and I guess the shaking scared the thing because it took off at the speed of light where it went. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure the thing is still in my grandma's house.